Teachers, what's the worst thing a kid brought for show and tell? Someone brought their pet bird, dead, in a box, that was going to be buried when they got home later that day. Well, hey, they just wanted everyone to get one last look at it. In my school, some kid brought in his collection of laundry rocks, which were crumpled up pieces of paper that he put in his pockets, and when his mom did the laundry, they would turn hard like rocks. He said he did it by accident once, liked it, and started deliberately putting crumpled paper in his pockets to make more. Yeah, I think we've all reached into our pockets before and pulled out a little lump of linty paper ball. It's kind of hard to call them hard as rocks though, because they're not dense enough. Only been teaching 1 year, but so far, Mom's only set of car keys. Well, I hope you at least walked out and checked. What if she was just sitting in the drop-off spot all day? The teacher across the hall from me had a student who brought what he thought was a lucky rabbit foot to show the class, and excitedly announced he had enough for everyone in the class. The rabbit foot was a tampon. You know, whether it was a used one or not, it could have worked either way in this story. In the 3rd grade, a girl brought her mom's kidney stones in a pill bottle. Man, kidney stones are just so weird. It's like, how do you just have what looks like rocks just basically growing inside of you? Hey, maybe the inside of you works like a washing machine and you're just turning the paper that's in your stomach into rocks. This reference is getting really weird. My brother found a scorpion at our house and captured it to bring it for show and tell. The scorpion got out somehow, and the teacher had everyone on high alert to look for it and capture it. Several children returned to the teacher, having found the scorpion. That was the day we found out our school was infested with scorpions. A scorpion infestation? I don't think I've ever heard of that. I mean, you can have termites, or ants, or cockroaches, or maybe even spiders, but do you just get scorpions hiding in your walls? I'm a preschool teacher in a state with legal weed. One of my students brought in a plastic tube the local dispensary uses for pre-rolled joints. He said he found it in his parents' room, and he brought it because he liked the popping sound it made when he opened it. Preschool kids will get amused by the littlest things. Not a teacher, but when I was in 5th grade, my friend brought a metal hip replacement piece from a human body. A human body that her father had cremated and kept. It was for a, what would you like to be when you grow up, sort of show and tell. She wanted to be a mortician like her dad. What's worse is that she allowed for this piece to be passed around the class before telling everyone, including the teacher, what it was. Chaos ensued afterwards. I don't know, I think it'd be kind of more exciting if they brought actual human bones. Not a teacher, but one of the kids in my class brought a remote control helicopter to class and flew it around. It was super cool until he accidentally got the blades wrapped around a girl's hair. I think the nurse spent an hour getting it out. You know, I've gotten a lot of things stuck in my hair before, but I can't say I've ever lost a remote control helicopter in there. When I was a newborn baby, my sister convinced my mom to bring me to her 3rd grade show and tell, and I barfed all over her. Yeah, I'm pretty sure babies just do that all the time, no matter what. That's the only thing they know how to do. Went to school in a tiny town with northeastern Colorado. Kid in my class drove his dad's combine to school for show and tell. Was in the 4th grade. Still find it crazy that nobody really cared that there was this big piece of farm equipment sitting on the front lawn all day. Yeah, that's true. It's like, what do you do with it for the rest of the day? I mean, show and tell only takes up like 15 minutes out of your 6-hour day. My best friend in grade school brought a huge hunting knife one day. He missed a week of school and my parents didn't let me hang out with him anymore after that. He ended up becoming an ump in MLB and always gave out tickets to his buddies. Thanks, Mom and Dad. I like free tickets too. Aw, come on, just let the kid show off his big knife. My wife is a teacher in a major U.S. city. One of her grade 4 students brought in a pack of his mom's cocaine to show the class during Drug Awareness Week. He got some visits from the principal and school counselor, maybe the men in blue. Hey, it's a relevant item that you can use to contribute to the conversation. Not a teacher, but when I was in 3rd grade, this dumb kid in my class decided to bring a live bat to class. The only problem, he put the bat in a plastic bag in his book bag, and the bat died because it couldn't breathe. Him removing it from the plastic bag dead, I still remember almost 26 years later. So did this kid just catch the bat on his own? I mean, it doesn't sound like his parents were really involved in this. I had a relative who was a biology professor at college, and they let me take an actual human brain to show and tell. I was a legend after that. See, these guys aren't afraid of actual human body parts like those others. I'm not a teacher, but did bring a black widow spider once. I caught it in my backyard. My teacher kindly explained that it was not okay to bring venomous spiders to school. Confiscated and released it. Man, all these kids like to bring live creatures to school and show them off. They're kind of like cats, you know? They go out and catch something and they just want to show you. I knew a dude who was a teacher of primary school-aged kids. They had a sink in their classroom that became clogged. I wonder what could be blocking the drain, he said out loud. Bags of drugs, blurted out one of the kids. Turns out the girl's dad was a dealer who would hide bags of drugs in the drains under the sinks in their house. Well, there's one where she didn't necessarily show someone, she only did the tell part. A lamb's tail. Apparently they went to a farm which let visitors keep them as souvenirs. Who knew that removing tails was a thing? Turns out it was a mistake to postpone show and tell for a couple of days, while, hidden in a locker, the tail marinated in the July heat. It's like, yes, let me bring this piece of flesh to show and tell. It's like, oh man, we gotta wait. I'll just leave it in my locker. Hopefully it doesn't rot too much by the time we get to show it. When I was in 5th grade and going to school in Arizona, this girl in our class brought in this glass jar with a tarantula and a black widow. No clue how she caught both in one day, or why. Within an hour, the tarantula was dead and upside down in the jar. Same day, there was a fire drill, and yep, someone knocked it off her desk and the jar broke, releasing the black widow. We never found it, but the teacher made sure to stomp the dead tarantula just in case. Same thing happened with our glass fire ant farm in 2nd grade. Now that I think about it, I don't know why people kept bringing this stuff to school, or why our teachers let them. See, first I was gonna say, why are kids so fascinated with these spiders? But I think the way it goes is like, 90% of people are terrified of spiders, the other 10% are just fine with them and want to catch them just to scare the other 90%. And that's how they end up in show and tell. When I was in 6th grade, I took a belly dancing bralette thing in that my brother sent me from his deployment. We were studying the Middle East and I had something from there. I thought it was cool. I remember my teacher gulping, eyes bulging, asking, "Just that? That's all they wear?" And me saying, "Yeah, I guess so." Anyways, it turns out he sent me his girlfriend's present, and his girlfriend got my camel book. But I was very, very popular with the 6th grade boys for a little while. So, did you go to school wearing that? Man, this just keeps getting weirder. I had a kid age 6 or 7 who had a lot going on, but part of it was that he was a compulsive liar with absolutely no sense of when a lie was so poorly constructed that everyone would know. Every single day he would say he had something for show and tell. Most days we didn't have time for show and tell, but every so often we kinda had to let him have a go. He'd stand up, ready to do a show and tell, then wander over to my desk, browse for a minute, pick up the most random crap, like a post-it note, a sharpener, once it was a custom well-done stamp that actually had my name on it, and then say some poorly constructed story about how he found it in Africa when he went there for tea yesterday with his auntie or some such. He'd get really upset if he realized nobody believed him, though even at that age, most of the kids had the tact, or gullibility, to just smile and nod. I don't really understand why people just make up random stories just in hopes that people will believe them. Like, not for any personal gain or anything, just because they felt like lying. Not a teacher, but a kid brought a super ball that he proceeded to bounce as hard as he could and broke a ceiling tile. Is this why schools always want to ban every kind of toy? My mom was a teacher. I didn't live with her, but I would occasionally go help her move stuff around and hang stuff up and clean. Just help with her room. Occasionally I'd bring a friend or two. We were in high school. So my sister, age 6, attended the school that our mother taught at. One day my mom called and asked if I'd come by with the 2 friends that I usually brought. We showed up about 20 minutes later. Without explaining, my mother sent us to my sister's classroom. We knocked, walked in, and my sister yelled, "My show and tell is here. These are my brothers. They are funny." I'm so lucky to be friends with these 2 guys to this day. Without hesitation, they started an age-appropriate Three Stooges routine. One climbed onto the other's shoulder, they juggled school supplies, pretended to trip each other, made funny noises. I barely played a role. My sister's class was continuous roar of laughter. Even the teacher was crying. She asked us to stop and leave because she didn't want the kids passing out from laughing. I'll never forget my sister's little face, looking so proud. I wonder what year this story took place, because I don't know that it's very common that, like, high school kids can just walk into a grade school. In 5th grade, we were studying human anatomy. When we got to the eyes, a kid brought in a bag full of cow's eyes. His dad worked in a slaughterhouse. The teacher was horrified. Yeah, I could see how eyes would be a little bit more gross than bones. Like, anything that's like gooey or fleshy part of the human body, I'm not really a big fan of. But I mean, bones are basically just rocks, and I mean, skeletons aren't that spooky. Wasn't show and tell, but once during morning break while I was a student teacher, 2 6-year-olds came to find a class teacher in the staff room. They had something to show her. She came back with pictures. These boys had found half a dead and decomposed hedgehog and decided to pick it up and put it on their desk. Needless to say, hands were thoroughly washed and drenched in sanitizer. I mean, I guess if it's the first time you've ever seen that kind of animal, even if it is just dead on the side of the road, I guess it can be kind of exciting. 1993, grade 3 primary school in Australia. My show and tell was rotten egg gas. I had a classmate hold a test tube and contained sulfur powder while I added hydraulic acid. No protective gear used. None of the adults saw any issue with this. Man, are these kids taking chemistry in 3rd grade already? I taught 5th grade in a school with really rich kids, and really low-income kids bust in. One of the low-income kids brought a coconut for her show and tell about Trinidad, where her dad was from. She cracked it open. It was completely rotten inside and smelled awful. I was so worried about the kid being embarrassed. But then one of the rich kids, who was also of pretty low intellect, looked at it with wide eyes and said, "It's like the earth, the core, the mantle, and the crust," which is something I think he had never really understood before, so it actually turned out pretty well. Well, that's all the show and tell stories we've got. I'm gonna try and use my old thumbnail style for this video just to test it out and see if more people find it that way. And if this video gets way more views than a lot of my recent ones, I'm probably just gonna go through and redo a bunch of my thumbnails. But that's all for today, so I will talk to you next time.